This is VSiN's, the sports betting network.
This is VSiN's Pro Football Tailgate Show, only on VSiN, the sports betting network.
It is set with everything you need to know ahead of this Week 5 NFL Sunday slate as we welcome you back to the VSiN Pro Football Tailgate Show. A couple quick updates for you in terms of the actives and inactives. According to Tom Pelissero, Brian Robinson Jr. for the Washington Commanders is active, as is David Njoku for the Browns. Big to have him back. Terrell Bernard. For this Bills team, considering all the injuries they have on defense, happy to have one of their linebackers back available. Inactive, however, for the Colts, quarterback Anthony Richardson, as expected, out. We will see Joe Flacco, no Dameon Pierce, and no Evan Ingram for the Jacksonville Jaguars as well. Alongside Rich Gannon, Stormy Buonantony with you. Live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino, we are now welcomed in studio by the owner and CEO, Derek Stevens. We're going to talk all things Circa Million, Circa Survivor contest, what the house needs today. But as always, super excited to have you with us on an NFL Sunday.
Good morning. Should be a great Sunday today. Weather's great in Vegas, and if this the weekend is any indication of the volume, it's going to be a massive day today. Yesterday was crazy. Yesterday was unbelievable.
Really?
Volume-wise was terrific. Yeah.
All right, so Derek, I got to share with you a crazy. You know, I was in town last week and had the opportunity to be in studio. And afterwards, I went to the Browns-Raiders game. I'm sitting in the Raiders alumni suite for the first half of the game. It was fine, but I wanted to go out and sit in the stands. I've never really done that. So I go out and sit in the stands. And wouldn't you know, I'm sitting next to a gentleman who's got a Circa Survivor hat on. We start talking, and he's one of the 479 survivors, if you can imagine that. We're sitting there talking. He's having this conversation. He's going off on how much he loves this. But we spent the better part of the third quarter just talking about his whole strategy. He had 5 entries. He's down to 1, but the excitement around this is incredible.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I love the fact that the active Circa survivors, you see them out in the wild often. They're wearing their hats with pride. I mean, it's something you got to be really proud of to get this far at this point. So we walked in, Rich, into this weekend with 480 still available. So I'm glad you had that opportunity to be one of those 480 last Sunday.
Well, and so with the Bucs loss, it's 479 now, right? From the original 14,000 plus that were in here, the implied value per entry is up to around $30,000. And every week there is a team or teams multiple of death. So who are the survivor entrants sweating out this week?
Well, you know, it's funny you say that because you're right. It's been like that every single week. And what's amazing in this 2024 NFL football season, we have only had one single double-digit favorite, and that was the 49ers last week. And you think, okay, week 1 to week 3, maybe we get this out of the way. But look at the schedule today. It's unbelievable. This is very, very difficult. So today, the number one most selected team was the Seattle Seahawks. Makes a lot of sense with the injuries to. The injuries that the Giants have and going across the country. So 160 selections on Seattle. Now, one thing we have to keep in mind as we look at these selections here for this weekend, remember the availability is really what's critical. So on the Circa Sports website, you can check the availability chart with Seattle. Only 274 of the 480 had Seattle available. So, so this availability keeps whittling down. The number 2 selection was the San Francisco 49ers. There was only 194 of the 480 that had San Fran, and then 86 took San Fran. And then it quickly whittles down to the Bears, Jacksonville, Denver, on down. A total of 14 teams were selected overall. So we know we're going to get a few knockouts. We currently have, as you said, one that got knocked out on Thursday with the very unique Tampa Bay selection. And there are 5 people now chilling out in the locker room after a very sweaty Thursday with the victory that had the Falcons. So they're lounging back and they're rooting for Cardinals today.
You know, Derek, it's interesting you mentioned Jacksonville, the last winless team. A lot of people thinking it's got to happen at some point. They match up against the Colts today. No Jonathan Taylor. I think I was saying to Stormy earlier, Joe Flacco playing for Anthony Richardson, I think is an upgrade for the Colts. Just your thoughts on Jacksonville and the other side of it, because to me right now, they've got a lot of issues on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I agree, Rich. But what's amazing, the market seems to not agree with this position. Yeah. I mean, this is as close to a runaway line as I've seen here, because you're going through a key number of 3. We were at 2.5 earlier this week. We went to a 3. We went to a 3 minus 15. We went to a 3 minus 20. And now we're up to a 3.5. So it's been all Jacksonville money for the last 48 hours.
And the total went down, which I thought when we saw Joe Flacco was more likely to play that it would go up.
Yeah, the total went down. Again, you got a runaway line on a favorite due to injuries on the other side, and the total goes down. And yet we think Flacco's better. I agree.
It's crazy. You mentioned the volume yesterday. College football was crazy. We saw 5 top 11 teams go down. You mentioned the Survivor players rooting for chaos today. As you kind of like look through the board, underdogs have had a lot of success in this early season in the NFL. Do you think that's a trend that continues this week?
I think it definitely should continue. One of the reasons, Stormy, I think we're going to have a huge amount of volume here in the physical brick and mortar sports book behind us, is because the bettors had a heck of a good day yesterday.
They're ready for more.
There's a lot of flush wallets I can tell you that are inside this building right now. So I think they're going to be coming at it with a fistful of cash. But I do think in a schedule like this, we are going to see a good handful of money line underdog outright winners today.
Derek, some of those bettors on Saturday forgot about the fact that you never go broke taking a profit. So, but I do want to ask you about some of the biggest line changes in the last 48 hours when you look at so many of these injuries for some teams, and certainly the uncertainty at quarterback when you look at the Dolphins. I mean, that's an absolute train wreck. Without Tua, this team has a difficult time making a first down.
Yeah, so this Dolphins game is interesting on 2 fronts. First off, let's take a look at the total. We were at 36.5, went to 36, went to 35.5, went to 35. I was on last night with Jeff Benson, 6 p.m. here in the studio, and we were at 35. Now, overnight, that number has popped. It's up to 36.5, back to where it was. So we've seen a lot of over money here in the last few hours. From the game perspective, we were a pick. We opened a pick. But, we declared the favorite with Miami being a 1, and then now Miami's up to a 1.5. It'll be interesting with these 3 quarterbacks, not with Thompson not even the backup today. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. And then this is Odell Beckham's debut, right? Yeah,
activated off PUP today for anybody who missed it. But it's interesting for this Miami team. They don't have Tua, but they do have all of their other weapons. Everybody else offensively is healthy again, yet can they have a quarterback that can get them the ball? It's crazy. I keep referencing the fact that Tyreek Hill's receiving yards prop today is only 47.5 yards. How telling is that about where this offense is? It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. To think with an offense with that many weapons and the total's 36.5.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. I also wanted to make sure we talked about Circa Million because we have Q1 in the books, some people getting paid out. And it means for people like myself, we have a fresh start here in Q2 that we can reset. The most selected sides in Circa Million this week, the consensus picks, the Jags laying 2.5 against the Colts like we were just talking about. Saints getting 5.5 in Kansas City in primetime. The Seattle Seahawks laying 6.5 against the Giants, Steelers laying 2.5 against the Cowboys, and the Vikings today against the Jets, who are up currently 17-10 in London. See if they can hold on here. How much of what we see in these consensus picks tends to match what you guys are getting at the counter?
Yeah, I would say it does match generally. Jacksonville being the number 1 selection makes a little bit of sense because the football contest line was 2.5. And like we just said, that the actual line right now is 3.5. So you do have a little bit of line value in the contest. So that makes a lot of sense. But what we will see, we will see action on these top 5 selections. And it does generally correlate to what we see at the counter.
Derek, a lot of interest in that Ravens-Bengals game. And these ones are always so hard for me. They're divisional games, Cincinnati, and kind of a gotta-have-it situation. A lot of momentum right now for the Ravens when you look at Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. Just what's going on in that game?
Yep, that's going to be obviously the early morning featured game. There's a little bit of concern with Joe Burrow, and you've seen that through the total. Totals come down from 49 to 48. But other than that, it's been really phenomenal two-way action. I think most shops around town, you're going to find the Ravens as a 2.5, maybe a 2. There was some thought yesterday that people were asking, would this game go to a 3? And I think for the exact reason you just said, this is a divisional game. Laying 3 on the road in this matchup is too much. So I don't think we're ever going to see a 3.
Okay, and in Circa Million, that game as well as Bills-Texans were extremely evenly split. It seems like people were kind of going both ways on it. Is that how you're seeing that in the market as well?
Yeah, this has been the feature game for the early slate. Great two-way action.
What is the biggest liability today, this last minute here? What are you guys rooting for and rooting against finally?
We are absolutely Indianapolis Colts fans.
Okay.
This runaway line with Jacksonville is no joke. I'm looking at it; it's far and away the biggest decision later today. Currently, we are Aaron Rodgers fans, and we are rooting for a little bit of a Jets comeback here if something like that could get pulled off. The house needs the Jets today.
Early in the fourth quarter, we're still sitting 17-10 there. Miami with the ball facing a 3rd and 8. Derek, you're awesome. Appreciate your time as always.
Thank you.
Derek Stevens, everybody, owner and CEO here at Circa Resort and Casino, as the book continues to fill up. Let's place those bets. Ladies and gentlemen, get it going. We got a on and pop in week 5 in the National Football League. Keep it locked right here on the Pro Football Tailgate Show. When we come back, let's dive into that Bills-Texans game, as well as Browns-Commanders, and a little more on the Colts and Jags.
Time. There's nothing more valuable. It's what drives everyone to make the most of every moment. We celebrate living large in the now. In a city where time disappears, we create experiences that electrify the soul and memories that will last forever. We go big. We go all night. And here, everyone is invited. So get loose and get loud.
This is Circa. You'll have the time of your life.
Coming up Monday on Follow the Money, playoff baseball, baby. We also recap a wild weekend, college, NFL, and Chiefs and Saints Monday Night Football. Follow the Money weekdays 4 to 7 Eastern on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Want to see who at VSiN is on a hot streak? Go to VSiN.com/picks to see all the selections and weekly leaderboard of VSiN hosts, writers, and guests. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber and get every pick sent to your inbox daily. Just head to VSiN.com/pro.
VSiN is thrilled to introduce a new VSiN.com tailor-made to the evolved needs of today's sports bettors. Our upgraded navigation streamlines your journey, allowing you to swiftly access articles, videos, and podcasts. Whether you're tuning in live or catching up on your favorite shows, everything is just a click away. VSiN.com guarantees a fluid and responsive experience across all devices, ensuring you stay connected wherever you are. We have enhanced tools such as our betting splits and expert picks, and introduce innovative features like parlay and odds calculators, all designed to make you a sharper bettor. Our how to bet section is perfect for beginners, covering the fundamentals, while seasoned bettors can delve into our advanced betting strategies for the competitive edge you've been looking for. Sign up for free on VSiN.com or become a VSiN Pro subscriber, where you can unlock unlimited access to every tool, expert picks, and insight that make VSiN the sports betting network.
watching VSiN's Pro Football Tailgate Show right here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We're locked and loaded on a Sunday morning alongside Rich Gannon, Stormy Von and Tony with you, getting you set for a full jam-packed Week 5 NFL slate. One game already in action overseas. We saw the Vikings get another field goal on the board. They now lead the New York Jets 20-10. And this is interesting because we've been hyping up so much about Sam Darnold and this Vikings offense, but credit the Jets defense this second half. They've done a good job holding them at bay.
Yeah, the Jets have a good defense. They can rush the passer as well. And, of course, they've got some talented players in that secondary. I think right now, though, you look at the Vikings, they just got to hold on and just be able to finish the game. Good offenses have the ability to finish late in games by running the football. That's going to be important and more difficult, obviously, without Aaron Jones.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. Without him, they have not been able to move the rock on the ground since then. And surprising to see this Jets offense continue to struggle. They're getting 9.5 points right now on the live line, which has kind of been the theme of the game. We've been stuck around that number for a while. But the money line price, with us only having 12 minutes remaining here in the fourth quarter, has gone up. If you think the Jets can have a miracle overseas, across the pond, plus 750 the price for them to come back and win it. Let's continue to go through some of the games upcoming here in the afternoon slate. The Buffalo Bills and Houston Texans should be one of the better games on tap. Buffalo was a short favorite. The injury comes out. Now they're a short underdog in Houston, total 48. Give you a few injury updates here, and one that's not an injury but unavailable. Von Miller, who leads the team in pressure and sacks, he's suspended 4 games for violating the personal conduct policy. Starting safety Taylor Rapp did not clear concussion protocol. Their D tackle Ed Oliver out. He was a late week add to the injury report, straining his hamstring at practice. Also, no Khalil Shakir, who's dealing with an ankle injury. On the Texans side, Joe Mixon is out again this week, but Dameon Pierce looks to be back, as does Tank Dell and Jimmy Ward. The Texans, for me, Rich, have yet to have an impressive win. I'm curious your thoughts on how these two teams match up, especially with Buffalo's injuries.
Yeah, they're big injuries. I think the Mixon one really concerns me. He's missed the last 3 games now with that ankle injury, and Shakir is a big loss for Josh Allen and the Bills' passing attack. You look at where the Bills are at. They lost to the Ravens last week because they couldn't stop the run, and that's a real problem for Sean McDermott right now. They're giving up 156 yards a game on the ground. That's the 3rd most. You mentioned not having Von Miller. He's their closer. He's the guy they bring in late in games to finish it off, and not having him for the next 4 weeks is a big loss. I think the strength of that team, without question, is their offense. They're scoring over 30 points a game, and in particular, the quarterback Josh Allen. He's gone 6 straight games without an interception, so he's going to have to do that again today, because on the other side of it, C.J. Stroud, he doesn't throw very many picks, just 5 in all of his rookie season. And I look at where they're at right now. Love Nico Collins. I think he's playing as well as any receiver in the league right now. We talked about Stephon Diggs, Stormy, earlier in the prop section. And the issue that they're having, you talk about not having a dominant win this season, is some of the penalties. I mean, they're the most penalized team in the NFL, 23 penalties the last 2 games. And the biggest offender is their left tackle, Laremy Tunsil. He's got 11 penalties, which leads the National Football League. I think the key for them is to take care of the ball, something C.J. Stroud does very well. The Bills, 37 takeaways since the start of last season. That's the most in the NFL. This one's going to come down to these 2 quarterbacks. This I can't wait. I love Josh Allen. I love C.J. Stroud. This is going to be a great matchup, I think, for years to come.
Yeah, and you talk about the Texans getting to have that dominant win. They're 3-1 to start the season. They lost a bad loss to the Minnesota Vikings, but the wins 29-27 in Indy, 19-13 against the Bears, 24-20 against Jacksonville. Just waiting for them to really make that statement. Potential opportunity here against Buffalo. Nico Collins, the receiving yards prop set at 78.5. I know you like him a lot. Where do you feel that number is for him?
I feel really good about it. Leads the
Okay.
NFL with 489 receiving yards. He's become the go-to guy for C.J. Stroud. Stephon Diggs, there's no issue. People are saying, what's going on with Stephon Diggs? He's got 25 receptions. It's just that every time Nico Collins catches the ball, there's big yards after the catch. I love what I'm seeing from Nico Collins here the first 5 weeks of the season.
You know, the way I think I might approach this game is actually the Texans team total. That way you don't have to worry about a win or a loss, but you can capitalize on the Bills' defensive injuries here, expecting those weapons to get going. It's 23.5 minus 115. I think if I were to place a bet on this game, that might be the way that I go with it. The Texans also debuting their color rush uniforms. I saw those on Twitter this morning. They look pretty nice, actually. Let's go to Browns and Commanders. Okay, Rich, this is like the fishy line of the week for me, and I need you to help me make sense of it. Washington offensively has looked unbelievable. The Cleveland Browns have shown me nothing to believe that they can hang with anybody at this point. Deshaun Watson is bad. His offensive line is worse, though. The line is only 3 with Washington at home, total 44. Am I crazy? Should Washington be a bigger favorite than this?
I think so. Look, this is when I look at these two teams, there's an imbalance, right? You look at Washington's offense, much better than their defense. You look at Cincinnati's defense, much better than the Cleveland offense right now. And we have two teams, one team that can protect the quarterback and one team that can't. And let's start with the Browns. I mean, the biggest issue they have is pass protection. They've allowed 79 pressures and 19 sacks. That's the most in the NFL. And by the way, Deshaun Watson's not a stiff. He knows how to move around. But you look at 4 straight games where he's thrown it at least 30 times for less than 200 yards. He's getting the ball out quick. He's throwing it underneath. He's near the bottom of the league in just about every major statistical passing category. He's not playing well. And third down is a big reason why they're converting just 20% of their third down opportunities. That's the worst in the NFL. They're first in total defense, and yet they force just 3 takeaways. So the issue in Cleveland is that they can't make first downs and the defense is on the field too much. On the other side of it, you look at Washington, and the big story through the first month of the season has been the play of their rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels. It's amazing. He's completing 82% of his passes. And back-to-back games where they've scored 38 or more points. Top 5 in yards per attempt, passer rating, completion percentage. He's also rushed for 217 yards and 4 touchdowns. They've actually scored on more drives, 23, than Jaden Daniels has incompletions, 19. And how about this number? They've only punted 4 times this season. Think about that. The Browns have punted 23 times, and the Commanders have punted 4 times, and they have just 1 turnover with a rookie quarterback. They're doing something right. The problem is the pass defense. They've allowed 10 passing touchdowns. Quarterbacks have 123.3 rating, and they have 0 interceptions. They've got to score a lot of points in Washington, but don't worry, they can do that with Jaden Daniels in that offense. Tress
Way, that is the name of the Commanders punter. He is cashing checks and not having to do a whole lot of work. So good on you, Tress.
He's stealing. Stormy, we refer to that as he's stealing. He's not even doing anything. He's still getting a paycheck.
Yeah, there we go. Well, I do trust Washington more than the Browns here. I did find this fun fact as I was going through my research this morning. For the Browns, the last 10 games off a loss. I did not know this. 8-2 overall, 8-2 against the spread, coming off a loss their last 10. Let's go into this Colts-Jaguars matchup again. We did get the confirmation Anthony Richardson is inactive. No Jonathan Taylor for the Colts either. That's why when we were talking to Derek Stevens, he mentioned the one-way traffic and value in Circa Million as well on contestants being able to lay 2.5 points in that static line versus the 3.5 that's readily available now. Jags are 0-4 to start the season, so you can cash that 30-1 last winless team prop if you got involved there. Trevor Lawrence has dropped 9 straight starts dating back to last season, yet they are the favorite in this spot. How do you feel that number lines up now that we are over the field goal with Jacksonville laying it?
I mean, I think this is the hardest game for me to pick this week. When you mentioned, the struggles that Trevor Lawrence has had, he's lost his last 9 starts. His numbers aren't very good. He's completing 53% of it. On the other side of it, Indy has not played well in Jacksonville. They've lost 8 straight in Jacksonville. The good news is that Flacco's going to play and Anthony Richardson isn't. Anthony Richardson has failed to finish 4 of his 8 career starts. His play style is not conducive to having a long, healthy career at the quarterback position when you look at the way he plays. I think Flacco is 39 years old. He's on his 17th team. He is a Delaware Blue Hen. I like everything about Flacco's game. He can still sling it. Not having Jonathan Taylor, though, concerns me, and they're dead last in time of possession. They have a little over 23 minutes a game. Think about that. San Francisco, who's number 1 in time of possession, has 11 minutes more in the games. And their defense has allowed the most fourth quarter points, 44. They were down late in games because they're on the field way too much. Dead last in total defense, and they've had a difficult time stopping the run. That concerns me. Jacksonville has got to win at some point, don't they, Stormy? But almost 40% of their offensive plays have been for 0 or negative yards. They can't get out of their own way. And you look at Travis Etienne, fewer than 80 rushing yards in 15 of his last 16 games. He's banged up. Evan Ingram hasn't played since week 1. Man, I just look at the numbers. They're not very good. And the defense, the 30th in total defense, 30th in scoring defense. Yeah. Man, home games haven't been very comforting for Jacksonville. Over the last 15 years, they have the worst home record. They win 38% of their games in Jacksonville.
Yet, they have had success at home against this team, oddly enough. Their last 9 home games against the Colts, 9-0 straight up, 9-0 covering the spread. That said, this is a hard pass, stay away game for me. As our friend Michael Lombardi likes to call it, his Hall & Oates play. I can't go for that. Teams to start the season 0-4 or worse that close as favorites the following game, 1-5-1 against the spread. They do not have success in this spot typically, but all of the injuries, who knows? That said, the bet I do have in this game, Joe Flacco to have 2 or more passing touchdowns. It's plus 120. 6 straight games for Flacco to have multiple passing TDs. Okay, I love the thumbs up, Rich. I love it. We're going to hit the break. When we come back, the Jets are driving down 10 with 8 minutes and 30 seconds to go. Can they pull off a miracle across the pond?
VSiN's got you covered for the start of the season with our football special. For $175, you'll get access to everything VSiN has to offer. With VSiN Pro, you'll receive daily picks straight to your inbox, detailed analysis on every game, and exclusive data like our betting splits to help you become a sharper bettor. Get all of this for just $175 through the Super Bowl. Or try a monthly subscription and get your first 30 days for only $9.99. Don't miss out on this offer. Sign up now at VSiN.com/subscribe.
This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
watching VSiN's Pro Football Tailgate Show right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We are back on the VSiN Pro Football Tailgate Show. Rich Gannon and Stormy Bonantoni with you. And boy, do we have good news for you. If you go to VSiN.com/subscribe now, use our promo code TAILGATE. You can get 40% off our football season special now. You sign up, that gets you VSiN Pro access to everything we do from now through the Super Bowl. That means you get the daily best bets, 19 hours of live video programming featuring expert breakdowns and in-game analysis, proven betting systems used by professional handicappers, exclusive betting splits, and so much more. Head to VSiN.com/subscribe today. And again, use that promo code TAILGATE. We're trying to help you out as we continue to get you set for week 5 of the NFL slate. We'll hit you with some of the key injuries, who's in, who's out, a lot of notable ones across the board in the league today. We'll start here quickly in the Miami Dolphins game against the Patriots. Raheem Mostert is back. They also activated Odell Beckham Jr. from PUP this week. Everybody on that offense is good with the exception of Tua Tagovailoa. However, they are down Jalen Phillips on the other side. For the Washington Commanders, we got the confirmation from Tom Pelissero moments ago. Brian Robinson Jr. will be back from the knee. Austin Eckler is available from the concussion as well. For this Bills game, the Bills are out a lot of pieces. No Khalil Shakir with an ankle, no Taylor Rapp, Von Miller. They will get Terrell Bernard back with the linebacking core. Continuing to go through here, the Colts, Anthony Richardson out, Jonathan Taylor out. The Raiders, Devontae Adams and Zamir White out. The Giants, Malik Neighbors and Devin Singletary unavailable. It is just a chaotic day for injuries, I feel like, Rich.
It is a lot, and it really forces the coaches to make adjustments, particularly the coordinators, as you put your game plan together. Storm, we began the show talking a little bit about the injuries. I just think there's certain coaches that do a better job of that. I think Andy Reid in Kansas City. I think Matt LaFleur in Green Bay, Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, Sean McVay with the Rams. I mean, they've had a lot of significant injuries at key positions, running back, wide receiver, on the defensive side of the ball, and yet they still find a way to put out there a competitive team each and every week. So some teams do a better job of it than others. Some teams have more depth. And as we're talking, I can't help but look at the screen above me and look at the Jets making a comeback in this one. This is a very interesting game. I'm trying to do two things at once. It's not easy, Stormy. I know you're trying to do the same as well. But when you look at this game, when you let a team hang around, something bad usually happens, and that's what the Vikings are doing right now. They're not playing great on the offensive side of the ball. You look at the numbers for the Jets. Both offenses are struggling. Rodgers, 21 of 41 for 177 yards and a pair of interceptions. He's been sacked 3 times. They're not able to run the football. I said they wouldn't win this game without Breece Hall having a big part in the game plan. Just 17 rushing yards on 8 carries, and third down has been a real problem, which I thought it would be against this Minnesota defense, just 4 of 15. The Vikes offense, letting them hang around. This one is going to go right down to the wire.
And Rich, this is just such a good reminder for bettors. This is why you can never celebrate too early. When the Vikings are up 17-0, you're feeling pretty good if you were somebody who laid the 2. Now we are in a field goal game with just a few minutes remaining here in the fourth quarter. That was the connection, Aaron Rodgers to Garrett Wilson, that gets the Jets up to 17 points now. You probably are pretty happy if you got anywhere from +9 to +13.5 on the live line with the Jets, which you were getting. Now that number is just 3.5. The live total 39.5. We'll see if the Jets can close the job here. 6 minutes and 4 seconds remaining. The Vikings with the ball here. A couple more injuries just again as we continue to go through this. The Dallas Cowboys with a handful of them. Micah Parsons going to miss his first game due to injury. DeMarcus Lawrence is on IR. Their wide receiver Brandon Cooks was put on IR with a knee injury as well. The Packers situation, Romeo Doubs, he was suspended by the team for a game. Some stuff going on behind the scenes with him missing practices. It's conduct detrimental to the team is what he's suspended in that Rams game for today. Likely without Christian Watson as well. So what might that mean for Dontavian Wicks moving forward? And last but certainly not least, the Las Vegas Raiders. I have not seen an update on Max Crosby just yet, but I know the expectation is that he'll be available to go. No Devontae Adams, though. No Zamir White.
Yeah, you know, it's hard when you go into a game as a quarterback, Stormy, without your top receiver. But when you're without 2, that's a real issue, I think, in Green Bay. And remember, Jordan Love, his first game back last week, did some really good things late, but also threw three interceptions. So you're concerned from that standpoint. They've got to be able to lead on the running game. They're very good at it. They're second in the league in rushing, and I think it has to be a big Josh Jacobs type of day for the Packers. For the Raiders, you think about not having Devontae Adams. We talked about all the distractions the Raiders have had this week with all the innuendos about whether he's going to be back, whether they're going to trade him to the New York Jets or some other team. Distractions are never good for a football team. And the concern that I have for the Raiders is this is a very young football team when it comes to leadership in that locker room. And when your best player isn't happy and wants to go play somewhere else, that's not a good thing. When your other best player is dealing with an ankle injury, and Max Crosby, although he was back on the practice field, I suspect he'll play today against Denver. But I just got a bad feeling right now about the Raiders. They're 2-2. And as I said to Michael Lombardi earlier in the C block, it just seems like the sky is falling on the Raiders, and they're still 2-2. But this is an important one for them in Denver.
And for Devontae Adams, just to go back to that, he was one of the players who was pounding the table for Antonio Pierce to get the job. And seeing the way that things have transpired early on in the season, I just keep on thinking they just didn't like Josh McDaniel. Like that's all this is to me, is that basically you see Antonio Pierce get this job because the players liked him more than they hated this other guy, right? Like you didn't like this guy so much that anything else was going to be better. And now you've put yourself in a situation where Antonio Pierce doesn't have experience as a head coach. He went from being everybody's friend and buddy and being able to be that rah guy, like let's get you invigorated with energy and all of this stuff. But now that he actually has to be a head coach, he's rubbing some other people the wrong way. Things aren't all sunshine and rainbows. And you're seeing that on the football field. The last couple minutes here, Rich, we talked with Derek Stevens here on the desk about Circa Survivor, the most selected teams, the Seattle Seahawks leading the way with 160 of the remaining 479 entries, followed by the 49ers at 86. And those are the two biggest favorites of the weekend, 7 and 7.5 point favorites respectively. If you had to pick one team, if you were still in Survivor this week, you had to pick one, who would you trust the most in week 5?
I like both of these teams. Why? Because they both can play defense. They both can run the football, and they both have very consistent quarterback play. So that being said, I like Seattle. I think the job that Mike McDonald has done with that defense, he's really settled them down. They've had some issues last year on that side of the ball. And what I'm seeing from Geno Smith, reminiscent of what we saw from Geno Smith in 2023 when he was the comeback player of the year. DK Metcalf, Smith and Jigba, Lockett. They've got real playmakers on the perimeter, and you look at their ability after the catch. That's really where this offense seems to come to life. I think they've got a good thing going right now. I think playing at home, always an advantage up there in Seattle. I think the two most difficult places to play outdoors in the NFL, if you're a quarterback, is in Kansas City or on the road, obviously in Seattle. The noise is deafening. It makes it very difficult to communicate in the huddle and at the line of scrimmage. I really like what I'm seeing from the Seahawks.
Okay, I'm going to challenge you to go a little bit further down the board as well for a secondary option, because we talked about there's always been a team of death. It's the top team or the second most selected team has gone down every single week. So what's helped a lot of these people have success so far is kind of zigging when others zag. If you were looking at maybe an off-the-wall team trying to change things up a little bit, who else would you like?
Well, I like San Francisco. We mentioned that, and for the very similar reasons. I think the one that concerns me a little bit is Chicago, because I love what I'm seeing from the defense. We talked about Caleb Williams. We've seen steady improvement on that side of the ball, but DeAndre Swift's been a little inconsistent. We saw him kind of come to life last week. The receiving core, though, I can't get my arms around the receiving core. I was really excited about this group to start the season. Keenan Allen hasn't shown the flashes that we saw from him before he got injured last year with the Chargers. You look at Roma Dunze, he's made some plays, and then he's been battling some injuries, and he's missed practice time. And DJ Moore, we talked to John Hansen, the guru. He didn't like that play this week. So I'm a little concerned about their offense. They're having a difficult time offensively. They're really leaning on their defense. And when I look at teams that are remaining, I want to see strength in all three phases: offense, defense, and the kicking game. And I'm not quite sure by what I'm seeing on the offensive side of the ball with the Bears.
Rich, we got a ball game here too. 5 contestants in Circa Survivor selected the Minnesota Vikings today, who just now could not convert a 3rd and 7. So we got a ball game these last 3 minutes in the fourth quarter with the Jets and Minnesota Vikings. Will Richards setting up for a field goal here from 41 yards out, see if they can extend the lead to a touchdown. and it is up and it is good. So, okay, 23-17. Jets are getting the ball with 3:07 to go. What can they do with it?
Well, you got one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL when it comes down to crunch time. And we always talk about it, Stormy. In these situations, there's two types of quarterbacks, those that feel pressure and those that apply pressure. And Aaron Rodgers has been all about the latter, applying pressure his entire career. And, when you think about in a gotta-have-it situation, the advantage goes to the offense, not the defense. When you have a quarterback like Rodgers who doesn't have 3 downs, he has 4 downs. So this is really 4-down territory for him the rest of the way. They need, obviously, a touchdown to win this game. So, if you're Minnesota, the way you win this game, you get a big play, a sack, or a takeaway. It's your only chance against Aaron Rodgers.
I need Minnesota to close this out. Come on. I want to start the day with a dub. We are running the board next, going through each and every game on the slate. You won't want to miss it.
In the heart of downtown Las Vegas, a sports oasis awaits. Stadium Swim, the ultimate outdoor amphitheater, built for the ultimate sports fan, with a colossal screen that brings the game closer than ever. Reserve a daybed, private cabana, or lounge in the center of it all. 6 pools to dive into as the game heats up. And the best part, there's never an off-season. Open 365 days a year. Stadium Swim, it's always spectator season.
Looking for the ultimate sports betting podcasts? VSiN has got you covered. With a wide range of podcasts covering every major sport, we're here to help you make smarter bets every season. The Baseball Betting Show with Greg Peterson gives you daily insights into finding value on each day's MLB card. And check out Long Shots, where we deep dive into the world of golf betting, providing you with expert insights to help you bet every tournament. Find all of these podcasts and more at VSiN.com/podcasts or your favorite podcast platform.
watching VSiN's Pro Football Tailgate Show right here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
I'm very curious to see if we're going to get the final of this Vikings-Jets game in London. 2-minute warning. We're at the commercial break right now. Aaron Rodgers with the ball at midfield, down 23-17. How is this thing going to play out? Any final thoughts on the 2-minute warning, Rich, before we run the board?
You know, this is a kind of, at this point, Stormy, it's kind of a pick-em type game. You know, I always worry when you get a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers in 4-down territory, you give him 4 shots. That's an issue. And the Vikings haven't played as well today defensively, giving up a lot of explosives in the passing game. Offensively, not a great day for the Vikings, but defensively, they have to find a way to hold on, and not sure they can do it against Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Aaron Rodgers, so good late in games.
Selfishly, I have the Vikings laying 2, so I would like this just to be the final score, close it out, and our good friend Tim Murray said he has the Jets in a teaser, so this would be the most advantageous score for the both of us. All right, with that in mind, it is time to run the board. We've got some game time decisions to make ahead of these 10 a.m. Pacific time kickoffs. Rich, let's do it. Producer Bill, roll the music. We are ready to run the hurry up here, starting with Baltimore and Cincinnati. The Bengals, a 2.5-point home underdog against the Ravens. Total 48.5. Baltimore has stepped their game up each of the last 2 weeks. Can they cover a field goal on the road?
Well, look, Baltimore has rushed for more than twice as many yards as its opponents in all 4 games this season. I think Cincinnati's going to have to obviously slow down the run. But the best way to beat the Ravens is to keep that offense off the field, get off to a fast start, grab a 2-score lead, and make Lamar Jackson have to throw it a bunch. That's not what they want to do. Curious to see if the Bengals can do that today at home.
Yeah, they put that emphasis on stopping Derrick Henry. Good luck stopping a freight train, though, if you are the Cincinnati Bengals defense that has looked like Swiss cheese, unfortunately, at times. Let's go to the Bears and Carolina Panthers. So Caleb Williams has not had the best start of these rookie quarterbacks, yet he has been improved each week. Carolina does look better with Andy Dalton under center at quarterback. It's a 4-point spread in this one. Bears favored at home, total 40. How do you see this one?
Yeah, Carolina has never won at Soldier Field, 0-6 all time, but they are a different football team, Sturm, as we talked about it with Andy Dalton as compared to Bryce Young. Chicago has to clean up the mistakes and penalties. Too many missed assignments, mental errors. They had 10 penalties last week, and they need to keep feeding DeAndre Swift. 92 rushing yards, 72 receiving yards last week. He needs to be a big one in this one. Curious to see if Caleb Williams can finally turn the corner and put together 4 really good quarters of football today at home against the Panthers.
As you look at our VSiN Pro picks, everything is coming up. Bears, Drew Dinsick, Steve Fezzik, Kelly Bidlin, Grace Remington, all of them laying the 3.5 or 4 with the Bears. And to your point about DeAndre Swift, Dustin Sweetelson loves that over 48.5 rushing yards for the stud running back. Miami and New England going head-to-head. Seeing a flip of favorites in this one. The Patriots were favored. Now we're seeing Miami getting a little bit of that love on the other side. -2, low total in this one, 37, despite how dynamic we have seen the Miami Dolphins offense be in the past without Tua Tagovailoa. It has not looked the same. Now, Miami has gotten a lot of their weapons back. Raheem Mostert available, Devon Achane. You're going to see Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Yet, it hasn't looked the same without Tua Tagovailoa under center. Can they cover this number in New England?
I think they can if the quarterback plays well. There's 2 teams that are reeling right now. Both have lost 3 straight. Believe it or not, I think the Patriots obviously have the better quarterback situation. Miami's pass offense is virtually disintegrated without Tua Tagovailoa. Passing yards per game have gone from 319 week 1, 212 week 2, 140 week 3, 78 last week, and the yards per play have seen a similar decline. I don't know if Derek Stevens has a number on this, so I'm going to give it to you, Stormy. The over-under on punts in this one is 15. I'm going to take the over.
Okay, we'll find out the over-under punts in that one and the one in Commanders-Browns, specifically for Washington, because Washington has not needed to use their guy Tress Way at all, it feels like, this season. This, I mentioned earlier, feels like a little bit of a trappy, stinky line because the Commanders, to me, being favored by just 3 seems a little suspect for this Cleveland Browns team that's done a whole lot of nada for bettors. Total 44.
Yeah, especially with the rookie quarterback. But I'm loving what I'm seeing from the rookie quarterback. And if you ask me who I trust more, the veteran Deshaun Watson or the rookie Jaden Daniels, I'm going to go with the rookie. He's taking great care of the football. He mentioned just 1 turnover. They've only punted 4 times this season. Compare that to what the Browns have done 23 times. and Jaden Daniels is completing 82% of his passes. Love this rookie quarterback, and I love the Commanders at home.
It's been so impressive to see what he can do with his arm, with his legs, running all over the place, and especially since I have had some injuries at the quarterback position for my fantasy league. Thank you, Jaden Daniels, for stepping up each of the last 2 weeks. Let's go out there to Houston. The Buffalo Bills and Houston Texans going head-to-head, and this has seen a flip of favorites as well. We saw initially the Bills favored by 1. Now Houston is a 1.5-point favorite, and we've seen even that tick up the extra half point just in the last hour. Is Houston the rightful favorite in this game? Can they get it done?
They can. And look, I'm worried about this Buffalo defense, and particularly their run defense. They got bullied last week by the Ravens in the rushing attack. The fact that Joe Mixon's not going to play today for Houston certainly does help. But you look at C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins, who leads the league in receiving yards, Stephon Diggs against his former team. I think the Houston Texans have a big day offensively against that Buffalo defense.
Lots of injuries on that Buffalo defense as well, and their lead sack getter, pressure bringer, Von Miller, suspended for the next 4 games, so he's going to be unavailable. The way I played that game was the Texans team total over 22.5 points. Similar thought process, just don't have to worry about the winning or losing on Houston's side. Indianapolis Colts taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Despite the Jags being 0-4, the last winless team in the National Football League, they're up to a 4-point favorite now against the Colts. This line has just continued to have one-way traffic since Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor were both declared inactive for this game, which we've talked about. It is interesting because Joe Flacco as a pocket passer probably gives them more pop offensively. Total 45 in this one. How do you see it?
I think if you're Shane Steichen, secretly you're pretty happy that Joe Flacco is going to play today, not Anthony Richardson. Joe Flacco saved the day last week, threw for two touchdowns against Pittsburgh. I think he can do it again today. He's that type of player, and the team will respond to his leadership. This is a guy that's played in a lot of big games. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been a Super Bowl MVP. I think when you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars right now, Storm, they've got a lot of issues on both sides of the ball, but particularly offensively. They can't find the end zone. They're averaging just 15 points a game. There's only 2 teams that have scored fewer points so far this season. I like my guy Joe Flacco on the road to get the win today in Jacksonville.
Well, and it looks like the Minnesota Vikings are going to get the win in London. Aaron Rodgers throws a pick under 2 minutes in the end zone. Game over as the Minnesota Vikings are just kneeling it out now. Who doesn't love a little victory formation? And we are starting the day with a dub. Sorry, Jets fans. Sorry, producer Bill. Don't yell at me.
What's that flight like on the way home from Jacksonville? From London. I'm sorry. It's going to be a crazy one. You can see the reaction already from Aaron Rodgers. 3 interceptions today, including a pick 6. This is not the same Aaron Rodgers that we were used to in Green Bay. I don't feel good about the Jets moving forward.
No, sir, I am with you. And this is not the start that you expected when you bring in that Hall of Fame quarterback and go all in on your roster. I would be a little bit worried if I was Robert Saleh. And if I was Devontae Adams, I might not want to go there, which brings me to the Raiders and Broncos, Rich. Who do you like?
I like the Raiders. I don't know why I'm saying this. You look at the Broncos right now offensively, they're really relying on the legs of Bo Nix and not the arm. The defense is keeping them in games. But look, the Raiders have had a lot to overcome this week. All the scuttlebutt about their star receiver, Devontae Adams. Gardner Minshew actually hasn't played bad, and the fact that they got the running game going last week, 152 rushing yards. Alexander Madison is a big upgrade over Zamir White. I think they run the ball well against that Denver defense. This will be a nail-biter, but the Raiders have won their last 8 in Denver and 10 of the last 11. Take the Raiders today in Denver.
The 2 biggest favorites of the day, the San Francisco 49ers laying 7.5 against the Arizona Cardinals and the Seattle Seahawks laying 7 against the Giants. Which of those favorites do you trust more today?
I trust Seattle. We talked a lot about what we've seen from them through the first 4 games of the season. I love what I'm seeing from Geno Smith. I think this offense is getting going, and I think the other issue is the Giants. Without Malik Neighbors, they're struggling running the football, and the protection has been a problem as well. I really like the Seahawks at home.
All right, Rich, last 30 seconds here. The game you like the most, the side you like the most today. What are you giving the people?
Oh, geez, Stormy. I'm gonna go with the 49ers at home. I mentioned this. They're 19-4. I know this is your team. 19-4 at home since 2022. Brock Purdy's playing well. Kyle Shanahan, one of the best play callers in the game. I think they play well. I think they've got the better defense. I think they've got the better quarterback. I think they've got the better coach. I like the Niners in Santa Clara.
You're just trying to get on my good side, and I will take it gladly. Thank you, sir. For the MVP, Rich Gannon, I'm Stormy Buonantony. That's going to do it for us today on the Pro Football Tailgate Show. But stick around. There is so much more coverage to come. Up next, Tim Murray and the crew, Jeff Schwartz, Wes Reynolds, Patrick Maher, Dustin Sweetelson, giving you live in-game content from 1 Eastern to 7 Eastern. Then after that, Matt